Good afternoon. My name is Brian Hickox. I'm president of the Quincy Symphony Orchestra, and I want to welcome you all today to our family concert of the 2025-2026 season. So today's going to be a lot of fun. Who's here ready for some fun? So normally, I just tell you about Yoichi, our music director, who tells all of us how we should play the music. But we also have a storyteller with us today. I'll tell you about him in just a moment. So today, it's all about fun. You don't have to be quiet. If you're afraid of the wolf, hold on to someone close to you. Because there's a story in the third piece that we're playing that there's a scary wolf, okay? Actually, they're pretty friendly when I look at them back there. So we have three pieces today. The first one's an overture. It's kind of fun, it's fast, it starts out and goes in different tempos. The second one, has anyone ever heard a piece of music that sounds like ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-ba-bum? That's Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. We're going to hear the first movement of that. So listen to that, and Yoichi will help us understand that a little bit as well when he comes up. And then, to finish off, we're going to do the story of Peter and the wolf. Now, Peter is just a nice kid. He's just meandering through, but he might want to get into some mischief. We'll see. Joe Catalano. Who knows Joe Catalano of Quincy Access Television? He's going to be our storyteller today. So Joe's a lot of fun. So Joe's going to explain how everything goes before we play and during the time that we play. So pay attention to the story that Joe tells us on the third one. And most of all, what are we going to do today? We're going to have fun. Have a great day.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. We're going to start off with the music of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Can you say that with me? Wolfgang? Amadeus? Mozart. Unusual name, right? Fun name. Wolfie was his nickname, I think. Right. Music of Mozart. That's a fast piece, isn't it? It's very hard to do. All of these players are just really playing like crazy. Can you just give them another hand? All right, we're going to do the first movement of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, but before we do, we're just going to give you a short introduction to the different sections of the orchestra, all right? So the first section, first of all, we're going to play a couple notes from the Beethoven Symphony, and then we're going to take it apart, all right? So here we go. This is from the end of the first movement. Here's what it sounds like. Okay, now, do you see all these players, they have, well, can you just hold up your violins and your violas, and over here, cellos and the bass? Do you notice they all have strings, right? Strings? So we call this section the strings. So everybody say it with me, strings. Strings. Okay, and these are the violins. Hold up your violins. 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 Okay. Violas. Violas. Cellos. Basses. Okay, now here's what the strings sound like. Okay, here's the string section. Now I'm just going to do one fun little thing. I'm just going to ask one player from the string section to play. Because you see there's a lot of players, right? But there's a difference between just one of each and everybody playing. Here's just for fun, just the one player from each of the strings. It's a very different sound, right? Now here's all of them together. Okay, now we're going to go to the woodwind section. Let's see, woodwinds, can you hold up all your instruments, please? All right. And they blow into them, all right? And then most of them, except for the flute, are made out of wood, so that's why we call them the woodwinds, all right? Bassoons, let's just see the bassoons. Let's see the bassoons. Isn't that cool? You got to be very careful when you try to take one of those onto an airplane. All right, the clarinets, all right? Here's what they look like, all right? And then the oboes, and then the flutes. Can you see those? All right, so here's what the woodwind section sounds like. Now, the next section is the brass section. Horns and trumpets. Can you hold up your instruments, please? All right. They're very loud. They're very loud. Let's listen to the brass. Okay, and now the last section, or last player, is the percussion, and we have a timpani, all right? You see him back there? You see the big drums? Okay, parents love this when kids want to learn percussion, because it gets to be a very lively home. All right, here's what the timpani sounds like. Isn't that fun? Okay, now here's what we're going to do, just so you can see how all of it fits together. We're going to start with the string section, and then we're going to add the woodwind section, then we're going to add the brass, and then we're going to add the timpani. All right? All right, here we go. As we play this first movement of the Beethoven, think about what instrument you will want to learn. Okay, here we go. now we're going to tell the story of Peter the Wolf. Are you guys ready for a good story? All right. Well, listen, we have a narrator, a wonderful narrator. Joe Catalano from QATV is here, and he's going to come narrate. So could you give Mr. Catalano a big hand, please?
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to say that we are so fortunate here in Quincy to have such a talented group of musicians with the Quincy Symphony Orchestra. Thank you very, very much. Who wants to hear a story? It's a great afternoon for a story. Yeah, me too, me too. Do we have any Peters in the audience today? Anybody Peters? Well, you can all be Peters today. There's a Peter, very good. This is the story of Peter and the Wolf. It was written a long time ago, almost 100 years ago, by a man by the name of Sergei Prokofiev back in 1936. Okay, so almost 100 years ago. But it's still a great story today, it really is. It's a lot of fun. We're going to tell the story using the instruments played by the very talented musicians right behind me here with the Quincy Symphony Orchestra. You're going to hear strings, woodwinds, brass, percussion to tell this story. You may have seen your little handout. Every character in the story is represented by one of the instruments behind me, played by one of these great musicians. For instance, does anybody know what sound a bird makes? Tweet, 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 right? Well, the bird in this story is represented by the flute. Right? Sounds just like a bird. There's a duck in the story as well. What does a duck say? Quack. Quack, quack, quack. See if this sounds like a duck. The duck is represented by the oboe. How about a cat? What sound does a cat make? Yeah, meow. Well, the cat in this story is represented by the clarinet. We have a grandfather. Are there any grandfathers today? I bet you there are a bunch, right? We have a grandfather in this story. Grandfather is represented by the bassoon. Does that sound like Grandpa? One of the stars is the wolf. Yes, we have a wolf, and the wolf is represented by the 3 French horns. Ooh. And of course, the star of the show is Peter. And when you hear Peter, you're going to hear all of the strings in the orchestra in this melody. We have some hunters. Hunters are represented in this melody in the woodwinds. And there are some rifle shots. Rifle shots will be represented by the bass drum and the timpani. Yeah, I know. Okay, are we all ready for the story? All right, everybody settle in. Here comes our story. Early one morning, Peter opened the gates and walked out into the big green meadow. branch of a big tree sat a little bird, Peter's friends. All is quiet, chirped the bird happily. Just then, a duck came waddling round. She was glad that Peter hadn't closed the gate. She decided to take a nice swim in the deep pond in the meadow. Seeing the duck, the little bird flew down upon the grass, settled next to her, and shrugged its shoulders. "What kind of bird are you if you can't fly?" said the bird. And to this the duck replied, "Well, what kind of bird are you if you can't swim?" It dived into the pond. They argued, the duck swimming in the pond, and the little bird hopping along the shore. Suddenly, something caught Peter's attention. He noticed a cat crawling through the grass. Oh, the cat thought, that little bird is busy arguing. I'll just grab it. Stealthily, the cat crept towards him on her velvet paws. "Look out!" shouted Peter, and the bird immediately flew up into the tree. The duck whacks angrily at the cat. From the safety of the middle of the pond, cat walked around the tree and thought, is it really worth climbing up so high? By the time I get there, the bird will have flown away. Just then, Grandfather came out, and he was upset that Peter had gone into the meadow. It's a dangerous place. If a wolf should come out of the forest, then what would you do? But Peter paid no attention to his grandfather's words. Boys like him are not afraid of wolves. But Grandfather took Peter by the hands, led him home, and locked the gate. No sooner had Peter gone than a big gray wolf came out of the forest. In a twinkling, the cat climbed up the tree. The duck quacked, and in her excitement, foolishly jumped out of the pond. But no matter how hard the duck tried to run, she couldn't escape the wolf. He was getting nearer, nearer, catching up with it. Then he got the duck, and with one gulp, swallowed it. So now, this is how things stood. The cat was sitting on one branch. The bird on another. Not too close to the cat. And the wolf walked around and around the tree, looking at them with greedy eyes. In the meantime, Peter, without the slightest fear, stood behind the closed gate watching all that was going on. He wasn't at all afraid. He ran home, got a strong rope, and climbed up the high stone wall. One of the branches of the tree around which the wolf was walking stretched out over that wall. So grabbing hold of the branch, Peter lightly climbed over onto the tree. Peter said to the bird, "Fly down and circle over the wolf's head. Only take care that he doesn't catch you." Down the bird flew. Now the bird almost touched the wolf's head with his wings, while the wolf snapped angrily at the bird. Again, and again, and again. How the bird worried the wolf, how he wanted to catch it. But the bird was clever, and the wolf simply couldn't do anything about it. The bird was far too clever for the wolf. Meanwhile, Peter made a lasso, carefully letting it down. Caught the wolf by the tail and pulled with all his might. Well, feeling himself caught, the wolf began to jump wildly, trying to get loose. but Peter tied the other end of the rope to the tree. And the wolf's jumping only made the rope around his tail tighter. Just then, the hunters came out of the woods. Following the wolf's trail and shooting as they went. But Peter, sitting in the tree, said, "Don't shoot! Birdie and I have already caught the wolf. Now help us take him to the zoo." And now, imagine this triumphant procession. Peter marching at the head. After him, the hunters leading the wolf. and the cats. Well, grandfather shook his head discontentedly. Well, what if Peter hadn't caught the wolf? What then?
Take me to the
And above them all flew Birdie, chirping merrily. My, what brave fellows we are, Peter and I. Look what we have caught. And if you listen very carefully, you can even hear the duck quacking inside the wolf, because the wolf in his hurry had swallowed her alive.